Hello everyone, I'm Pierre. This is my final presentation for ABA 641, Single Case Study Design. Math Fluency Training to Increase Endurance in Completing Math Assignments. So here's a little bit of background on the topic and why it's of interest to me. This question was raised during my clinical practice with an individual that I support. My client is a teenager diagnosed with ADHD. Parents report that he struggles with completing math assignments and following through with tasks. My research question is, can increasing math fluency increase endurance to tasks or work? So in the case of the client that I support, would increasing his math fluency increase his math assignment completion? That's one of the big questions that I had when I was looking at this. So let's talk about the definitions of the terms presented. What is endurance? Binder, Houghton, and Van Eck wrote about endurance in 1990, saying that by timing and charting students' performance across a range of different durations, educators can learn to deal more effectively with individual differences in attention span. This will also promote a better general understanding of the problem of attention, which precision teachers prefer to call endurance, in terms of the relationship between how long a student performs and his or her performance level. So what is fluency training? Fluency training is a teaching method that encourages the development of fast and accurate response rates on component skills. So the fluency training of these component skills can then improve the performance of composite skills. So math skills fit perfectly with fluency training as math builds on the knowledge of foundation skills. So why study this? This research is meaningful for supporting individuals that struggle with math and completing math assignments. Math is a core subject in many schools. Basic math facts are foundational skills required for further education and success in a traditional educational setting. Improving math fluency and completion of math assignments may increase the individual's willingness to attend math class. It may improve the individual's ability to complete more challenging math problems. It may result in an improved grade, which will please the individual, their parents, and teachers. It may improve the individual's perceived self-worth and confidence in math ability. And it may reduce the individual's reluctance to do assigned math tasks and complete math assignments. Many math tutoring programs and private businesses are common here in Winnipeg, where I am. For example, we have Oxford Learning, Kumon, Tutor Bright, and I think there's some others that I can't recall the names of at this point, but all of them make money by teaching math to children. So parents are paying out of pocket for these tutoring services to help their children gain better scores in math at school. So math skills are valued by parents and teachers. So there's quite a bit of research regarding math skills and quite a bit of research regarding fluency training. A lot of it is found in regular and special education research journals. There also is a lot of research in behavior analysis, particularly studying fluency training and how fluency is taught through precision teaching. So one study in behavior analytic work related to math that I particularly like is by Jones and Fryman, where they essentially did a systematic desensitization procedure to treat anxiety related to bugs for an individual who was doing poorly in math class. So this individual was doing poorly in math when classmates told him that bugs were nearby. his anxiety was affecting his math performance. From what I recall in the study, the individual was on the football team and at risk of losing his spot on the team if he didn't improve his math scores. So that case is quite different than mine, but it demonstrates the importance and the ability of behavior analysts to do work in a traditional math class setting and to use our science to help students. So there's numerous math fluency curricula out there. I'm sure you've seen quite a bit in your work with children. There's things like Rocket Math. There's research comparing fluency training using iPads versus worksheets. There's the taped problems method where math problems and the answers were played on a cassette tape. Yeah, that's quite a ways back. But anyways, they used the cassette tape recordings where they played the math problems and the answers 3 times, and the students would then answer the problems. There's some research on self-monitoring of pace to increase fluency. There's other research related to studying the cover, copy, and compare method, where a student is trained to follow self-directed steps for each math fact. So the student would study the correctly completed math fact. So it's like the model of what they should be doing that appears on the left side of the sheet. Then they fold the page over to hide the original math fact. That's the cover piece. Then they copy from memory the math fact and answer, writing it on the first response under student response section on the worksheet. The next step is to uncover the original correct model and compare it to the student response. If the student has written the math fact correctly, the student moves on to the next item on the list and repeats the same procedure. If the student has written the math fact incorrectly, they draw a line through the incorrect response, they study the correct model again, they cover it, they copy it again, and hopefully that time they get it correct. This continues until all the math facts on the sheet have been copied and checked. Yeah, a little tedious. So, how does this research add to behavior analysis? Precision teaching was developed by Ogden Lindsley, a student of B.F. Skinner. So the study of fluency has been around in behavior analytic work for some time. The study of improving skills and helping individuals remove barriers to learning is directly aligned with what behavior analysts do, which is to strive to improve the skills and learning ability of the individuals that we support. The operational definition of fluency. For this one, I think I need to check in with the teachers and parents prior to coming up with the definition. It needs to be something that is relevant to them and makes sense for the individual. Prior to implementation of the study, I will be doing a basic math facts fluency assessment to determine where the individual is at in regards to math skills. The operational definition of endurance. So endurance is defined as completion of a math assignment. Again, the math assignment creation needs to be done in part with insight and guidelines from the teacher to determine what is relevant for that individual. To meet the definition of endurance, the individual would need to complete the assignment by writing down some sort of math response in the form of numerals for each math problem presented. The definition of endurance does not require accuracy, therefore the answers do not have to be accurate. So I'm going to go into more detail about the methods section of the research project. I'm going to discuss the experimental design, participant selection criteria, settings, equipment needed, ethics protocols and parental consent, the dependent and independent variables, the procedures, assessment, implementer training, baseline and treatment phases, data collection methods, procedural integrity checks, social validity testing, and of course, the assessment of inter-observer agreement. Experimental design. Yes. I selected alternating treatments design for the study as I am interested in determining if fluency increases endurance, and I need to separate the reinforcement of fluency from the endurance of the assignment. But Kara, where's the precision teaching? Where's the standard acceleration chart? So I decided not to use precision teaching methods, such as the standard acceleration chart for this study, because of who the implementers are. The implementers will be teachers and parents. I did not want to train teachers and parents on how to use the chart, as it may be intimidating and confusing for them and could affect buy-in to the research. I also decided not to use the SCC because it is primarily created for individuals to track their own progress. The children participants will not be self-managing their progress in the study. I'll start with baseline, where I will be doing a math fluency assessment protocol with the participants to determine where they are in terms of speed and accuracy. Then I will do the first treatment phase, where I will be testing endurance paired with reinforcement. Again, endurance in this case is simply the completion of the assignment, not necessarily measuring accuracy or rate of completion. Second treatment phase is fluency paired with reinforcement. So the individuals will be tested to determine if their number of fluent responses to math questions increases when paired with reinforcement. The third phase, endurance and fluency are paired with reinforcement. In order to access reinforcement, the participants must finish their assignment within a specified time period with a specific amount of answers correct. Next, there will be a thinning of the reinforcement schedule. And finally, there will be follow-up probes at the 1-month mark and 3-month marks to check in on math assignment endurance. So the selection criteria for participants. For this study, I wanted to look at children between the ages of 10 and 15 years old who struggle with completing math assignments and struggle with answering math problems in a timely fashion. Again, the definition of timely needs to be discussed with teachers prior to implementation. I chose this group because children in this age are starting to receive in class and take home math assignments that require that they have a knowledge of basic math facts. For this study, I didn't want to limit it to only looking at children diagnosed with ADHD. I think the research would benefit those individuals, but I think that this research would benefit many children that struggle with math regardless of diagnosis. The participants would need to be able to sit in a chair at a desk or table, hold a pencil, be able to write numerals with a pencil, and for the preference assessment, the participants would need to be able to indicate preferred reinforcers and make a choice of reinforcer for each session. Participants would need to be able to follow verbal instructions from the implementers, who would be their parents and teacher. So the setting for this study will be in the participants' classroom and in their home, specifically where they complete homework. Measuring in both settings allows for practice of the math skills across environments where math work would be conducted outside of research. Equipment needed, it's pretty basic stuff. Pencils with erasers, randomized basic math fact problems, randomized basic math fact worksheets, data sheets for the investigators, a timer, answer key for the assignments, table and chairs for participants and observers. Ethics and parental consent. So IRB protocols are required by St. Cloud State University and will be completed prior to the commencement of research, as well as obtaining written consent from the participants' parents and teachers and assent from the participants. I will review all aspects of the research study with the participants and their parents prior to the start of research and provide a rationale as to why this research is being conducted. The independent variable being studied is fluency training. The dependent variable being studied is math assignment endurance. Implementer training. The experimenter will provide basic training to the implementers on presentation of the math work and on the reinforcer selection prior to the implementing of the research. Implementers must score an 80% or higher on the initial training prior to the commencement of work with participants. Data collection. The implementers will provide the permanent product of the math work to the experimenter. For the time trials, the implementers will write down the duration of the task on the worksheet or assignment. Determining reinforcers. To determine reinforcers for the participants, I will conduct a preference assessment interview with the participants prior to baseline. This list collected from the interview will be presented to each participant prior to the session, and they will select their reinforcing item for that session. Procedural integrity. Procedural integrity will be checked using a task checklist tailored for each phase of the study. A second observer will visit sessions across settings and phases at least once a week and will look at data collection, implementation of the phase procedures, and reinforcement delivery. Social validity. Social validity will be determined using a pre- and post questionnaire for participants, parents, and teachers, asking questions about perceived math fluency and perceived endurance of math assignments and overall acceptability of the study. Assessing inter-observer agreement. So I'll be using Cohen's kappa to determine IOA as it accounts for chance agreements. I would be measuring IOA across implementers and the second observer. So each implementer, the teacher, parent 1, parent 2, would all be measured separately against the second observer's recording. I also would separate the baseline IOA scores from the treatment scores. This again adds to the integrity of the study and allows for additional training to be provided to implementers in case of discrepancies in IOA. Challenges and questions. So I have some concerns about this study. One is, how do I fade reinforcement and still keep the target skills in place? At what rate do I fade out reinforcement? How do teachers implement this research while in the school setting? Do we pull the participant out of class and place them in another classroom? Is this done during regular math class? Is this done during lunch or recess or after school? What is the criteria for moving on to the next phase? Should it be time-based? How do I control for extraneous variables? What would be some extraneous variables of concern in this study? Is my design appropriate for measuring fluency's effect on endurance? Should I increase the math question difficulty across phases and as the participant improves in their math fluency? I welcome your thoughts on how to address these concerns, and I welcome any other questions or concerns or feedback that you have. And thank you for watching my presentation.